Hi, this is Chris Krantz with HT Krantz Beekeeping Supply in Frederick, Maryland, and we're going to go over how to assemble one of our solid inner covers. Solid inner cover is something that you want to make sure is very square because it sits, above your honey super or your hive body, depends on what you have on at the time of the year. And your telescoping top will actually fit down directly over top of your inner cover. So if it's out of square, then the telescoping top cannot fit down on it. So always make sure you have a square ready to go. Glue, of course, and we use a crown staple that is no longer than 5/8 of an inch. We actually use a 1/2 inch with the inner covers just because you don't want the staple going through because it does recess a little bit in the wood. Alright, so at first glance, let's make sure we've got all of our pieces. You have the flat piece that has the center cut out, and that's for the bees to go up through. It also is for you to put a bee escape on there as well. Now there's two side pieces, and there's an end piece and a back piece, a front piece and a back piece. So if you look at them, there is a side that's a little deeper and side that's a little thinner. So that's very important because if you don't put it together right and you get them mixed up, if you have the one side crossing the other one, it's not going to fit together right. The good thing about this is that it will only fit one way. So if you have one of the pieces backwards, it won't let you put it together. So, alright, to start off, we're going to take our two side pieces and right just about a 1/2 inch from the end, I put a pretty liberal dab of glue in there. You don't need too much because the inner cover does not have any structural support. Okay, so there we go. Alright, I always start off with one of the sides and then I take one of the fronts. I look for the side that matches, so the two pieces that have the depth. Go ahead and slide it in, and then you bring it out till it's flush on the outside. Okay, now at this point I take my piece of plywood and go ahead and slide it in there. Alright, so now that's on. So then we're going to move to the other side here. I'm going to look for the depth of the side. Go ahead and run that down, and then again we're going to put it so it's flush here at the end. And just use your hand if it's not flush. Alright, and then we're going to take the very last piece, look for the side thickness, and then we're going to go ahead and just slide it right down. Now you're going to have to move the plywood in a little bit on the middle. Typically what it does is it pushes against the edge, but once you get it slid over, it slides right in the slot. And go around to every corner, make sure it's flush. This is good. You can feel it with your hands, feel it. This one needs to come in a little bit. You'll see that sometimes there's a little bit of a gap here that just means the piece is not together well enough. So go ahead and make sure that there's no gaps and get it together. And then the other most important part here, like I said, is the square. Run your square on it and make sure that it's square. See, it's out by about a 1/16 of an inch over here. So we're going to go ahead and if it's out on that side, basically we're just going to push here a little tiny bit. Alright, and that's perfectly square. I don't see any gaps around the outside of the square. This is exactly what we want. Okay, now we're going to staple it. If you remember earlier, there is a thicker side and there's a thinner side. And it's always important to shoot through the thinner side down, because what can happen is if you shoot from the thicker side and through, and if the staple makes its way past the wood and actually goes into the smaller side, what will happen is the staple will push through just a little bit and it will crack this piece off. So always make sure when you staple it, you're stapling it through the thin side down into the thicker part of the wood, and that's going to keep from anything breaking off. So the way we do this is I always put two staples right in here, which is about where there is a tenon piece that goes in there, and we're just going to lock that tenon piece into place. So 2 staples, and the idea is to lock the tenon. It's important not to lock in the plywood. Don't ever glue the inside around where the plywood goes, because this piece of plywood is actually going to expand and contract, and if you glue it in place, it won't expand and contract, and what will happen is it'll actually break the wood. And another thing, you never want to staple down in through the plywood, because then that's going to have the same effect. It's going to expand, and then it's going to crack whatever is there. You'd be amazed how much the moisture with one of these can expand it. What happens is when the hive, this sits above the hive, and the moisture actually comes in through, and it congregates up here, and then this typically will be a little damper than the rest of the hive, so you definitely want to make sure that there is room for expansion and contraction. One of the other parts about this is, because you have the 3/8 of an inch side and the smaller 1/8 inch side, well, what side goes up and what side goes down? Always remember that the thicker side is facing up. That gives the proper bee space, so the bees can come up here and kind of relax. If you had the smaller side up, what would happen is the bees could not get up here, so they wouldn't be able to congregate up here. And then what else you would have happen is there'd be a little more room here, and the bees may build a little bit of burr comb between the top of the frame and the bottom here. So you definitely want to make sure that the thinner side is always down towards the hive body or the super, and the thicker side is always sitting up. A lot of people always take a marker and just put up on it, and it's very important that you remember to always put your inner cover in the proper position. So anyway, thanks for watching. You can visit us online at www.htkbeesupply.com for any questions, comments, or other videos that we have for assembly. Thank you.